Alright, welcome to another video from the chart readers. Hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube. It is the quickest way to get updates. Otherwise, check out the website. You'll see all my videos in a nicer order. And then at the very bottom, there's actually a free weekly email you can sign up for. So today we're going to check out a different sector, and it is the inverse sector. So if you don't know what the inverses are, I made a video a couple days ago just describing what they are and how you can use them basically as a stock market crash tactic. So check out that video if you don't know what the inverses are. But look, we're going to do what we always do, right? We're going to look at the daily and the weekly charts. I'm going to use our 5 moving averages. And then you'll see I've actually already started making some support lines on this one. I don't think the rest of them have them, so I'll do a few live on this video. So I like to say I'm going to start with the big boy, and I think arguably SQQQ is probably the most known of the inverses. QQQ, you can definitely look up that ticker. It's very heavy NASDAQ. It's very tech heavy. So SQQQ kind of goes against obviously that, right? So look, what are we looking at, right? I mean, we are basically looking at what we've wanted a whole mess of the other stocks in my sector to look in the Stock Talk sector reviews, right? We clearly go up here. I'm going to zoom out just a bit because this really is the first time I'm looking at it. We make a pretty good run all this time, kind of riding, losing, and then rewriting the 8. And then pretty devastatingly just drop hard, right? Basically, you can kind of call that the bottom right there, but I don't care about the bottom, right? What I care about is this reconquering of the 8. Now, don't get me wrong. We saw one right here. We saw one right here. The difference was there was no follow through. There was no confirmation, right? And if you watch these videos, it's all about confirmation, and that's what we get right here. Break of the 8 this day, confirmation up the other. Look, from there I kind of talked about it. You'll see it often come back to it and then make another move, right? But we've pretty much ran the 8 this entire time. Obviously, this little blip right here happened, but look, natural resistance down here on the 100, right? So it's not like it was, you know, unexpected per se, right? This was a pretty tight cluster. It got through a few, couldn't get through them all, but definitely bounced, fought a little bit, and then once it broke it, it made a run. Clearly, I did make a line here. As I zoom out, as I go to the weeklies, you'll kind of see where the lines did come from. But look, let me just say a few things, right? SQQQ, you are over every single moving average. You are riding the 8 pretty well. That is a very nice RSI, but it is very high, okay? So I can definitely see us maybe coming back down just to cool off the RSI. But look, I mean, this is just such a good setup right here. You're over everything. You're over the 8. MACD is green over red. Your RSI is green over red. Again, 80 is a pretty high number. You can see it though. It's definitely gone almost to 90s. So it might do a little run, but yeah, I imagine we'll have a day or two kind of cool off just to lower this RSI. But yeah, SQQ looks beautiful. You know, it does, right? Taking a look at the weekly. So again, just look at this weekly, right? Kind of zooming back here. We made a run once to this 100, right? Clearly failed it and failed it very hard. Made another run to the 100 again. The difference was no confirmation here. I'm seeing confirmation here, right? So we've broken the weekly, actually broke a support line as well, and now we're up. Clearly you can see the 64 line came from this guy right here, and actually the 72 line looks like it came from right here. If I zoom back, I'm gonna guess that these other ones, this one might have come actually from here, but I think after the 72, I think some of these might have actually come from a monthly view. Nonetheless, look, again, look at that RSI, people. That's what we want to see, right? Just a nice, looking like a hard slope up with the red staying down. Not quite as drastic, excuse me, on the MACD, but again, if you watch these videos, you do know I like the RSI more. So SQQQ, look, again, at least short term, it does seem to be setting up, and the weekly looks good, right? So the daily, like I said, you might get a cool off just because 80 is a really high RSI. It for sure is. However, the weekly's kind of telling me we'll have at least 3 good days versus 3 bad days versus Depends how you see it. It's an inverse, right? So when I say bad, it means good for this. But SQQQ should do better over the week, right? So though I was talking about the cooldown, that weekly does make it look interesting. So the next one we're going to look at is SDOW. Okay, so again, this one just a little more easier. Obviously, this one talks about the Dow 30, and we are shorting the Dow 30. So this is going to do pretty much the opposite of the Dow Jones, right? Almost an identical chart to SQQQ, right? Again, I'm actually not going to zoom out. I'm just going to back and forth it real quick. That's SQQQ, a little more zoomed into the V, right? This is SDOW, a little more zoomed out of the V, right? So I'll make a couple lines here. Here's the first one I'm going to make right there. And you can see once it breaks this one, it kind of fought with it a little bit. Once it broke it, we got that nice day to day, right? But look, exact same thing. We make this run up. We definitely drop. We definitely just ride the 8 all the way down. Right here again, right? We get that confirmation that we love to see. Look, 3 good days in a row. I get it. Never got over the 8, right? So 2 good days in a row. I get it. Never got over the 8, right? Excuse me. So again, I repeat a lot of things, and hopefully you are starting to absorb them and use them, right? But at this point, it does look very similar to SQQQ. Again, very similar to SQQQ. Again, that RSI still as strong. A little higher if I'm not mistaken, but nonetheless, still looking good. There's definitely a gap right there. All right, so let's make a couple lines. We're going to use the top of this guy. We're going to use the top of that guy. Really, there's not too many more I would use. I guess I'll use the top of that guy. All right, I mean, that's pretty much it. There's not, I mean, you can use this, but that's just a little closer to the 4. It's not quite in the middle. Yeah, that's really all I'm going to do for here. Yeah, again, look, looking pretty good. Definitely starting to ride this channel from what it looks like. So let me go to the daily. How high was the RSI? So again, RSI is a little high. How high did this guy get? 88. So again, I imagine we'll cool a little bit, right? Just because, again, that is a very high RSI, but very similar setup to SQQQ. SPXS. So now we are getting into the S&P 500. This one throws in the word bear and 3X. Again, look, I'm not going to lie to you. All I know is these are all in the inverse family. And the game, like we always do, is just kind of see if any of these are better than the rest or worth your money, right? So this one has not quite broken the top line yet, okay? So that's interesting, right? It does have that same up, down, up, break all moving averages, break a good RSI, high 80. However, this one did not break the top line. There's a couple ways of playing that, right? If you think it might tomorrow, this thing can definitely fly up. In a lot of ways, this thing's resistance down might drive the 2 tickers that we saw before go down as well, right? So again, there are going to be correlations, but look, I'm still seeing the same thing here. A good 2-week break here, a good RSI here, a MACD starting up here, and then let's draw a couple lines further out. I'll take the top of that guy. Nice, that was perfect. I will take, I guess I'll take that guy. I'll take that guy. You know, I might be able to put something here. That's kind of a good in the middle break. No, honestly, I like these. I think that's good. I think forcing one there might be a little much. So this isn't too bad right here. But again, we have not broken into this channel yet. We are still here. So actually, let me put one more. I would use this guy right there. So that's a little tight, but again, look, I'll lines up. If anything, if it doesn't hit the line, it would basically come down to the 100 anyway. So yeah, that does make sense. But again, maybe this resistance is what brings down the other 2, but still a very strong weekly, a very strong daily. I have 3 more. We're about halfway there. DXD, again, we're looking at the Dow 30, another ultra short. Look at it. Again, high 80 RSI looking good. MACD looking good. This one does look like it. Yep, it does. It broke the peak right here. And again, the same thing. We saw a little dance and then pop. I love it, right? I love seeing the similarities across the tickers, right? So I say that when I do my oil review, I say that when I do my weed review, I say that when I do, the EVs. It's really important that everything in the sector is doing the same thing. Because look, these are correlating stocks, right? These are all inverses, right? And just the same way when they're all weed stocks, and like if they're not doing the same thing, that might mean pay attention to this, because it could mean something, right? That kind of goes back to that last one where I thought, hey, maybe the fact that that was the only one that didn't break out of 4, hey, maybe that does mean Monday will drop a little bit. But even when I made my line, it didn't look that drastic. But again, this one looks like the first 3. So yeah, these are all looking very, very strong. Again, going back to the S&P 500, another ultra short. Ooh, did this one break the top? Oh, it just did. Okay, look at that. Again, high 80 RSI, MACD looking good. This one did, broke all of them, right? Coming to the weekly. Good. Again, I hope you guessed it, right? Over the 100, 2 weeks combined. All of these going up, very nice and sharp, just starting to go up. And look, I mean, we're essentially making the climb at this point, right? So let's do this. If I'm not mistaken, this ticker, this one has the 200 the closest down here. So that's something to kind of pay attention to. Really, there's not a lot of... I'll use that right there. Okay. Well, I guess I could have used the gap instead, but yeah, all right, I'm gonna use this instead. No, all right, you know what? No, I'm gonna use the bottom of the gap and maybe kind of call that a medium. So what just happened right there? I wanted to use this tall green one. I then just saw this gap fill right here, right? So I almost came to this tall one. I then decided to use the bottom of that. Look, how much of that is science versus art or whatever? Look, I'll tell you, it's just a feel for me. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, it's more about setting a potential wall, a potential resistance, right, than going blind. So, but yeah, you got to saw me work there a little bit. And then this last one is a NASDAQ one. So again, TECS, technology bear. NASDAQ's obviously tech heavy. Ooh, this one might not have broken. It did not. So we have 2 tickers that did not break that peak versus the other 4 that did. So interesting. Okay. Again, I think and this is a really high RSI. This one might be one of the highest ones. This is at 87. Interesting. Okay. Nonetheless, though, you can see this almost doubled, right? Just under 6. I mean, yeah, it actually might have doubled because this was under 30 and we're just under 60. So in about a month's time, about 2 months, but yeah, very nice. TECS, killing it. Ooh, interesting again. So look, the other ones, I think all the other ones had 2-week confirmation on the weekly. This one does not. So again, there's 2 ways of playing that. If you think next week's going to do it, it should monster rip. If you think it won't, this might be the sign that, hey, we might be coming down. And look, I'll be honest, I think the line is pretty much right there where the 100 is, right? So the 100 is at 52.85. Yeah, my thing's at 53, but yeah, 52.85 might be where it comes down to, and I would use the bottom of that. Yeah, just under that number, right? Otherwise, this thing should be kind of making the run up like the rest, assuming, kind of the correlations there, right? But I will say NASDAQ was hurting a little bit more than the S&P and I need one more in the middle for sure, and the Dow Jones. So it does kind of make sense that this tech one does have a higher RSI. That said, again, look, all of these had almost the identical chart, right? And that's the point of doing sector reviews, is 1, making sure they're all the same, 2, trying to see if one is a little better than the other, because again, we all don't have infinite amount of money, right? So look at a bunch that are the same, find the one that's worth your money, and you attack. That's the game, right? So there were 2 outliers in the group that had a certain outlier to it. Again, this weekly was one, and then both of them had the daily peak not breaking, right? Other than that, 4 of the 6 looked almost identical. So keep that in mind. And look, it is a bit of a scary time coming up, right? Regardless if it's a monster drop or if it's just going to be a slow and steady drop like we've kind of seen. Be careful out there and have a plan. So trade safely, and sincerely, I hope you're learning. Hey, have a great one.